God's blessings to everyone. This is a DGHradio.com news and information news update for the Caribbean, and I'm reporter SGD reporting the news for September 28, 2025, covering the latest developments from across the Caribbean. We begin with the powerful storm system dominating regional attention. Hurricane Humberto has intensified into a Category 5 hurricane over the Atlantic, with maximum sustained winds near 160 miles per hour and a westward motion that is stirring dangerous surf and rip currents from the Leeward Islands through the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and as far north as Bermuda. Marine advisories caution small craft to remain in port, with elevated waves and a high risk of rip currents along Atlantic-facing coastlines. Parts of the Bahamas have tropical storm alerts as another developing system threatens additional rainfall and flooding. Evacuations and flood responses are underway in sections of the Dominican Republic, and states along the southeast coast of the United States are staging resources ahead of possible impacts early this week. Question to consider: how prepared are small Caribbean nations for repeated major storm events in quick succession? Why it matters: the increasing intensity of tropical systems is stress testing emergency plans, infrastructure, and regional coordination when lives and livelihoods are at stake. Turning to regional connectivity and growth, Guyana has signed new air services agreements, including with partners in Africa, as it advances a vision to become a regional aviation and logistics hub. Upgrades at Chetty Jagan International Airport and a widening network of bilateral accords aim to boost tourism, trade, and jobs. Question to consider: what economic opportunities could expanded air links unlock for Guyana and its neighbors? Why it matters: better connectivity can rewire trade routes, expand tourism, and strengthen South America-Caribbean ties. Security in focus: Trinidad and Tobago's government has voiced strong support for intensified United States maritime and aerial operations targeting narcotics trafficking and organized crime in the Southern Caribbean. Supporters say the cooperation is curbing violence. Critics worry about sovereignty and escalation. Question to consider: could increased foreign military presence strengthen or undermine regional stability over time? Why it matters: the balance between security partnerships and national autonomy will shape how the region confronts transnational crime. In Barbados, a St. Philip resident has been charged with 3 counts of murder and 1 count of conspiracy to murder following a multi-month investigation. A preliminary inquiry will determine whether the matter is sent to the High Court. Question to consider: how can investigators protect witnesses while maintaining public transparency? Why it matters: the case tests the justice system's capacity to manage complex prosecutions while sustaining community trust. United States immigration authorities have detained a Haitian national accused of ties to violent groups contributing to instability in Haiti. The case highlights ongoing coordination among federal agencies and raises due process questions as removal proceedings move forward. Question to consider: what regional mechanisms best disrupt weapons and cash pipelines, fueling gang violence? Why it matters: cross-border enforcement decisions ripple through Caribbean security and migration policy. Also, from Trinidad and Tobago, a public dispute between the government and the opposition over foreign policy positions aired around the United Nations General Assembly. The administration defends a pragmatic, law-anchored approach. The opposition wants sharper lines on regional crises. Question to consider: should small states adopt cross-party foreign policy principles to reduce partisan swings? Why it matters: stable diplomacy helps insulate citizens from external shocks, from supply chains to cyber threats. Climate realities are biting. Scientists and planners in Trinidad and Tobago report worsening coastal erosion, higher storm surges, and saltwater intrusion affecting homes, farms, and infrastructure. Authorities are weighing nature-based defenses, stricter building codes, and upgrades to drainage and utilities. Question to consider: what is the best mix of hard defenses and nature-based solutions for vulnerable coasts? Why it matters: choices made now will lock in resilience or recurring losses for decades. Regional integration milestone beginning October 1st, Nationals of Barbados, Belize, Dominica, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines will be able to live and work freely among the four, with access to essential services subject to capacity, while voting and certain tertiary services remain governed by domestic rules. Question to consider: how should governments measure impacts on wages, housing, and public services? Why it matters. The policy moves regional integration from rhetoric to daily reality for families and employers. Disaster readiness. Caribbean agencies have launched a first ever regional shelter working group to standardize emergency housing, site selection, access for persons with disabilities, gender sensitive design, and clearer roles among public and non governmental partners. Question to consider: should new public buildings be required to meet minimum shelter specifications by default? Why it matters. Standardized, dignified sheltering saves lives as storms intensify. Policing and public trust in Jamaica. The police leadership resists external demands to mandate body camera use for all planned operations, citing commander discretion and informant safety. Advocates want default on rules with narrow exceptions and stronger safeguards for footage. Question to consider: would automatic activation features reduce disputes over cameras being turned off? Why it matters. Clear rules can protect both civil liberties and officer safety after critical incidents. Civic rights case in Jamaica. A hospital doctor faces disciplinary proceedings after contesting a parliamentary seat, rekindling debate over public service neutrality versus constitutional rights to seek office. Question to consider: should there be a uniform leave to run law for public officers instead of discipline after the fact? Why it matters. The outcome could shape who feels able to run and how the public sector preserves neutrality. On the world stage, Barbados's prime minister warns that great power tensions endanger small states, urging restraint, diplomacy, and fair access to development finance. Question to consider: can Caribbean states coordinate to keep trade and air routes open during crises? Why it matters. Volatility raises costs and risks for small open economies. Urban mobility. In the Dominican Republic, Santo Domingo's Metro Line 2 resumed service hours after a road crash destroyed a station entrance. Crews cleared debris overnight and reopened while repairs continue off-peak. Question to consider: should cities install crash-rated barriers at rail station entrances near busy intersections? Why it matters. Resilient design limits disruption and protects frontline workers and commuters. Sporting spotlight. The West Indies men prepare for a first-ever 2020 series against Nepal at a neutral venue, using the Unity Cup as development and qualification prep. Question to consider: how do neutral venue series shape performance and fan engagement? Why it matters. These matchups broaden cricket's reach and deepen regional depth charts. Economy Watch. A major global power has agreed to forego special trade status claims in certain negotiations to help unblock reforms at the multilateral level. Question to consider: which reforms best ensure fairer global commerce for small economies? Why it matters. More predictable trade rules can stabilize Caribbean supply chains and prices. Politics in the United States. New York City's mayor has withdrawn from the re-election race, citing legal overhangs and financing hurdles, reshaping a major city's contest and spotlighting the challenges of independent bids. Question to consider: do legal clouds and funding rules make independent urban campaigns non-viable? Why it matters. Leadership changes in global cities influence policy models far beyond their borders. Middle East diplomacy. Israel's leader signals work with the United States on a potential ceasefire framework tied to the release of captives and reductions in hostilities, with negotiations still fluid. Question to consider: what guarantees make a ceasefire durable amid deep distrust? Why it matters. Outcomes in this conflict reverberate through global security and humanitarian aid. Faith and sport. A decorated American sprinter and his Jamaican fiancée have taken a public step in their spiritual journey through a joint baptism, emphasizing shared values and mental resilience amid high-pressure careers. Question to consider: can openness about faith and mental well-being help young athletes navigate elite competition? Why it matters. Public figures modeling grounded coping strategies can influence fans and teammates alike. Public safety in Jamaica. Authorities in St. Anne are asking for help locating an 81-year-old woman last seen early Saturday. Communities are organizing searches while officials urge prompt reporting of any sightings. Question to consider: what technologies and neighborhood protocols best protect seniors at risk of wandering? Why it matters. Rapid, coordinated responses can save lives and strengthen community safety nets. Diplomacy in the Americas. The United States has canceled entry privileges for Colombia's president following public remarks Washington deemed destabilizing, further straining ties. Question to consider: how do leaders' speeches recalibrate bilateral relations? Why it matters. Diplomatic rifts can affect security cooperation, trade, and migration management. Innovation Agenda. A regional academic leader urges Caribbean governments to invest meaningfully in artificial intelligence, shifting from users to creators, funding startups, and training youth for data-driven jobs. Question to consider: could pooled regional programs accelerate progress and reduce costs? Why it matters. Strategic investment in technology can diversify economies and create high-value jobs. These and other issues are of great concern within the islands. What do you think are some good solutions? Let us know your thoughts by texting your comments to 1-315-898-1449. You can also join our WhatsApp group and get the news, weather, and other insightful information delivered right to your smartphone. To join, text JOIN to 1-315-898-1449. Please include your name in the text message. You will receive a call to verify your request. I'm your reporter, SGD, signing off for DGHradio.com. Remember, SGD and DGH, together we source, gather, and deliver daily global headlines, because on DGHradio.com, the news never sleeps. Ciao.